Ever feel like building apps for multiple platforms is like, I don't know, juggling chainsaws?
Uh-huh. I can see where you're going with that.
You're constantly rewriting the same code for iOS, Android, maybe even the web,
Hmm.
and hoping none of it explodes.
Yeah, it's a pain point a lot of developers face. Trying to keep everything in sync, dealing with different languages, different frameworks, it can get messy.
It's a recipe for disaster for sure.
Yeah.
But that's where I think Kotlin multi-platform.
Right. KMP,
Yeah, you got it.
it's supposed to swoop in and save the day. Offer a more elegant solution, so to speak.
Exactly. You could say that. KMP lets you keep all that core logic of your app, things like networking, data storage, your business rules, all in one place, written once in Kotlin.
Okay, so less repetition. I like the sound of that already. But what about those platform-specific things? Ah, that's where it gets really interesting. With KMP, you're not limited to just the shared code. When you need to tap into those unique features that make each platform special, you can still write native code for that extra polish.
So you're not stuck with the lowest common denominator across all platforms.
Not at all. It's more like you have a solid foundation built on shared code, and then you can add those flourishes and customizations that make each version of your app feel right at home on its respective platform.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for our listeners who are all about efficiency, how does this translate to real-world time and resource savings?
Just imagine you're building an app for both iOS and Android, right?
Pretty common scenario.
Traditionally, that often means two separate code bases, two sets of bugs to squash, double the maintenance.
Of the maintenance.
With KMP, you write that core logic once, which, as you can imagine, cuts your workload significantly. It's a huge time saver for small teams and a major efficiency boost for larger companies.
I'm already seeing dollar signs. Fewer bugs, faster development cycles, less code to maintain.
Exactly. And it's not just about being faster, it's about being better. With KMP, you can really focus on quality.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
It might sound like magic, but it's actually all based on solid engineering principles.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for me. How does it actually work?
So it all starts with this clever concept called source sets.
Source sets, huh?
Eh.
I'm intrigued.
Imagine them as, I don't know, neatly organized drawers for your code.
Okay, I like where this is going.
You have your common main drawer, where you keep all that shared code, the stuff that's going to be used across all platforms. And then you have platform-specific drawers like Android main and iOS main for those unique features.
So walk me through this. Let's say I need to access the device camera. That's a pretty common requirement for apps these days.
Absolutely. Whether you're snapping a selfie or scanning a QR code, camera access is key.
Exactly. But how do I do that with KMP?
So in your shared Kotlin code, you would declare an expect for a function. Let's call it take picture. This basically tells KMP, hey, I expect this functionality to exist on each platform, but I'll provide the specific implementation later.
So it's like I'm setting up the blueprint, but I'm leaving room for customization.
You got it. That's a great way to put it.
So how do I actually take the picture?
That's where the actual implementations come in. In your Android main and iOS main source sets, you'd write the actual implementations for that take picture function using Kotlin code that interacts with the respective platform's camera APIs.
So I'm still writing native code, but I'm only writing the parts that absolutely need to be native.
Exactly. You get the best of both worlds, shared logic and native power, all working in harmony.
I think I'm starting to see how this could completely change the game for cross-platform development. This is huge. Okay, so we've got this beautifully organized shared Kotlin code. But how does KMP actually turn that into an app that runs smoothly on, say, my iPhone? Is there a secret sauce?
Well, we do love a good secret sauce metaphor in tech.
Right.
But in this case, it's really about clever compilation. So KMP uses the Kotlin native compiler, which takes your Kotlin code and transforms it into those native binaries that Apple devices, they love those native binaries.
So my KMP-powered app would run just as efficiently as if I had spent weeks, slaving away writing it purely in Swift.
You got it. No performance penalty for taking the cross-platform route.
That's impressive.
And it gets even better. Remember we were talking about those native tools?
You mean like Gradle for Android and CocoaPods for iOS?
Exactly. KMP works seamlessly with all of them. It can even package everything up neatly into those XC frameworks that.
XC frameworks always sounded a bit like a mythical artifact to me.
They're not as complicated as they sound. Basically, they make it super easy to share code across all of Apple's platforms. So imagine you make one change in your shared Kotlin code and boom, it's automatically reflected in your iOS app, your macOS app.
Even my Apple Watch app.
Even your Apple Watch app, all thanks to XC frameworks.
That is slick. No more updating each code base manually and hoping everything plays together nicely. It's like a developer's dream.
It is pretty great.
But we talked a lot about the how. I'm kind of curious about the who, because I was looking at the Kotlin website, and they list some pretty big names that are using KMP,
Yeah, it's gaining a lot of traction.
like Netflix. And okay, this one kind of blew my mind. McDonald's.
It does seem like an unusual pairing at first.
It seems like a match made in, like, I don't know, tech heaven or something.
Yeah.
Fast food and efficient coding. But seriously, McDonald's, what's the story there?
It's a great example of how versatile KMP is. So for McDonald's, it was all about creating a single unified app for their global operations. And when you think about it, they've got restaurants all over the world, each with its own language, currency, menu variations.
Oh yeah, keeping all those apps in sync would be a nightmare.
Exactly. KMP allowed them to say goodbye to code duplication and streamline their updates across the board. So that's a massive win for efficiency, for brand consistency. I mean, it's a big deal.
That makes total sense. But then you've got Netflix, which is kind of, on the other end of the spectrum. I mean, their app is a beast. You've got streaming, recommendations, profiles, multiple device types. How does KMP even begin to handle that level of complexity?
Well, that's where KMP's ability to deliver on that native performance promise really shines. So Netflix was able to use KMP to actually boost the reliability of their app. And because they weren't bogged down with managing separate code bases, they could push out new features much faster.
So faster development, a better user experience. Sounds like a win-win to me.
Absolutely. And it's not just the big players either. You've got education platforms like Chalk.com using KMP for all their networking and core logic, and even Ninergy, the meme sharing giant.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
They made the switch from Flutter to KMP. They actually cited performance improvements as a major factor in their decision.
So it seems like KMP is gaining some serious traction.
Ah.
But let's get down to brass tacks here. What does this all mean for our listeners? Why should they care about KMP?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it boils down to this.
So KMP, it's more than just the latest buzzword, right? This feels like something that could really change how we approach building apps.
Yeah, I think it's a real game changer. In the past, cross-platform often meant compromise,
Totally. You're either sacrificing performance or you're giving up that native look and feel.
Exactly. But KMP changes that. And that's why it's so exciting.
It really is. So for our listeners who are ready to dive in, are there some key takeaways we can leave them with?
I think a big one, and we touched on this earlier, is that KMP isn't just about sharing code between mobile platforms. Remember we were talking about Kotlin native?
Yeah, and how Kotlin can be compiled to JavaScript as well.
Right. So imagine you could build a mobile app and its web counterpart all from a single Kotlin code base. It's like that write once, run everywhere dream is finally becoming a reality.
Wow, that's huge. So no more context switching between languages, no more duplicating effort between your web team and your mobile team.
Exactly. And it gets even better.
Oh, there's more.
The Kotlin team, they're really pushing the boundaries here. They're working on Kotlin WASM, which lets you compile Kotlin to WebAssembly.
Okay, I have to admit, WebAssembly is still a bit of a mystery to me.
Think of it like this. WebAssembly makes websites and web apps crazy fast because it allows code to run directly in the browser at near native speed. So with Kotlin WASM, you could potentially bring your KMP code to even more platforms, even more devices.
It's like KMP is the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is. It's an exciting time to be a developer.
It sounds like it. So to any of our listeners who've been on the fence about diving into cross-platform development,
I think KMP is the perfect place to start.
it really does feel like a game changer.
It is. It's a really powerful technology. It's got a great community behind it. And, it's backed by JetBrains.
The folks behind Kotlin itself.
Exactly. They're constantly improving it, adding new features, making it even easier for developers to build amazing cross-platform experiences.
That's fantastic. Well, there you have it, listeners. We've journeyed into the heart of Kotlin multi-platform, explored what it can do, and I think maybe even dared to dream a little bit about the future of app development.
It's an exciting future.
And the best part is, this is a future that's open to everyone, right? Whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just starting out, KMP welcomes you.
So what are you waiting for? Dive in.
Explore the resources we've linked in the show notes. Who knows, your next killer app might be just a few lines of Kotlin code away.
Now go forth and create.
And until next time, happy coding, everyone.